say that wasn't.
There's been hurricanes for thousands of years.
You can't stop Mother Nature.
If you want to start debating climate change, we can have a really good conversation about that.
I'm not debating it at all.
As a farmer, you should protect
100%.
Vermont and its land a lot more than you do.
Yes.
You should appreciate the land. You should appreciate the soil. You should appreciate nature. You should appreciate what it gives us. And you know, you talk so highly of your farm and your crops, and it is. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. But you allow this to happen? It's like two-faced. It's like, you know, like walking down the aisle of Act 250 up there. You walk down the aisle on the left-hand side is 250, on the right-hand side is Act 247. This guy's telling you to protect you can't have signs, you can't cut down trees, you can't do this, and this guy says blow it up. It's for energy.
Well, getting back to Irene, a lot what you hear is the mountains absorb the water. If you take the top of this mountain off, there's no absorption anymore.
Mother Nature put these mountains here to protect us
And this
from
one
that.
does a very good job.
And
It's
think
kind of
about
plateaued as you
100
walk.
miles. Think of 100 miles of it. Just think about 100 miles of 89 going across these ridge lines. That water is going to flow even more. It's going to crush even more. Yeah, they say we can engineer it out, but how good have we ever been? How good have we done engineering out that, engineering out fracking, engineering out all that? We mess it all up for ourselves, so we have to think the long term, not the, this is all short term cash.
We didn't invent this.
Yeah.
If you read any state manual from ANR, EPA, DEC, whatever, I've read them all. I preach their Bible.
What did ANR say
for
about
20
the water quality impacts from this?
It's not so much what they said, because I don't believe that ANR is being allowed to consciously do their job in the way that many of them would like to do right now.
When I asked,
Private conversations, but they all talk about impervious surfaces. I mean, when you go to a construction site, you know, and a lot of our contractors, they know that. I mean, it's recommended if you build a new development with 2 houses on a 10% slope, you should have a shared driveway because stormwater runoff is so bad. And any ANR manual will talk about encroachment and impervious surfaces and all that type of stuff, and you know,
So
water
what's the total
filtration
impervious surface as a
and
percentage
everything,
of the acreage
and
here?
how important
14
those
acres.
mountaintop
Out of-
resources are to filter the water off
those
slowly
purposes,
from those
basically.
hard
he
rains
has
we
about
get.
196 acres total up
Well, then you kick in Borbos. I think it's 250, and they're saying they're going to clear cut 42 and a half. That's 715 tons of carbon a year.
Well, I can absorb a lot, but I'm sort of trying to absorb one thing at a time. In terms of impervious surface, and this land, which is it all under 2,500 feet, so none of it would apply for the active fit. Right. So if it were developed, like what is the actual acreage? I get that there's numbers related to carbon with clearing the trees, but we clear 3 and 7 acres to do developments all over the state all the time. So if this is 16 acres, that's 4
I
acre
believe
clearings.
the application says 39 or 46 acres. So the Walmart parking lot, for example, in St. Albans is 7 acres.
Right.
So you picture 5 Walmart parking lots on the top of that ridge.
I get
for
that,
the
but we've been
impervious
talking about it
surface.
as a relative issue of runoff. And so what you do when you put a 5 acre parking lot in the middle of a lot of other pavement, and you're removing sort of the last of the ground that can absorb water, there are differences in how you analyze that stuff. And I'm not a wetlands expert or a water geologist. I took a hydrogeology class in college, but that's long enough ago. I don't, certainly not an expert. But I'm just trying to really understand the scale of what that impact is relative to the ability of the surrounding area to absorb it, and also what other uses. I mean, I don't know the zoning here. I don't know what other uses this could be used for. What are the other things that, is this going to always be woods, or could it be another 50 houses? Could it only be 6 houses?
You can only get 3 up there. Originally it was
but if
50.
he put in 50 houses, it would go through Act 250,
Right.
and someone asked me about that and said, wouldn't that be worse? And I said, no. I said, because houses, you have the house, and then you have the whole lawn, and you have
I'm talking about water. I'm addressing the water quality side. I'm not saying there's different issues.
But no,
that's
I'm saying,
community
I'm
issue.
saying
But
because you have the lawn and whatnot, you have an impervious surface, but then you've got all pervious stuff all around it.
but wouldn't they have the same thing?
Yeah, but it's not so much bigger. To put a 500-foot turbine, the anchors, and the amount of cement, so you're putting, and how far down into
But
the
if you
ground
put
that
50
cement
houses that were each half-acre lots, right? opening up that ground.
But it's in, it's in.
I think people
Maybe,
would,
maybe not.
I think people
Right.
would
It
object
would
to
be
a
a
50
development. It
house.
would be a discussion. I mean,
Can't be
Yeah.
developed because it's too many wetlands.
so what else could? What else would be possible up
A
there?
sugar
I've
bush.
heard about a core.
Sugar bush,
I've
that's
heard
it.
about sugar bush.
You can't put a quarry in.
What's that?
You can't put a quarry in anyway. After those turbines go off, put a quarry.
Can you do that in terms of blasting and not hurting the turbines?
You think they can hear me?
I don't know. I'm just an investment. I don't know.
I have no idea.
I don't know.
We certainly don't have the answers
But at
to
least
that.
we'll hear the blasting and the noise of the quarry
There again,
during
same
the
road.
day. At night,
turns
it's gonna
off.
be
I can sleep. My kids can sleep.
Parameters.
Yeah.
I mean, that'd be bad enough during the day. At least,
And it's not every day that we're blasting.
Winter.
well, no, but that crusher makes a lot of noise.
The crusher would make a lot of noise, yeah.
You know, the thing
And where would the quarry be? Do you know?
My gut, right here.
I say the last we heard was like exactly.
Right, quite a bit closer to your house.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yep.
With weather turbines. Wait till the quarry goes in. But you have active 50 protections under the
Right,
ground.
at least you got extra energy for the quarry.
Yeah, I mean,
But it's also a lot closer.
he used to
Yeah, you know-
allow us to hike and stuff up here when we first moved. We've now been disallowed from going up there, but
Well, people have disagreements. That
there you
does
go.
happen.
I know. So that's is what it is. But in walking up there, it's all beautiful wetlands. Even now, I bet you it would be wet up there, okay, in most of the area. And yet, he says that with how they're designing these roads, they do not approach any wetlands and they don't need
On the other
they're saying that that little pond right there, that's encroaching on wetlands, and they should have had a wetlands pond. But you're gonna be able to go up on that ridge, which is just
Tiptoe
completely
around in
full
your
of
rubber
water.
boots.
I don't know how you're gonna blast and all that and not put all your fly rock.
One of the biggest vernal pools I've ever seen in my life.
And where's the road protected?
Yeah, we don't.
But
gonna go
well, it's
through
got
that?
access all these turbines.
Well, I get that, but I mean,
They
if
could
it was going around there or is it going through there, I don't know.
They've got some, culverts and stuff going over it.
Because this area is so environmentally valuable and sensitive, their engineers have had to, we learned that at the Northwest Regional Planning Commission meeting last week, have had to redesign this multiple times to try to
These are approaching.
That happens all the time. And every development proposed.
These are approaching on your yard. If you move them 300 feet too close to houses, I assume they would make their sound standards. So they're going to keep them here, impact 7 acres of buffer in your land, set aside 32 acres to compensate for that, and be able to log and sugar that 32 acres. So that doesn't take much of a
I
second.
don't think the deer are on the beach. They have
93 decibels.
The deer are not going to be quiet place.
On the
They
fourth
can
floor, you
hear-
get 93, and then you've got 105, and then you get a flashing red light. The deer are gone. The deer are gone.
They're not going to use it.
Now, they had a study on deer, all the animals, right? Or not one.
Human.
Look at them. They never did a study on all the animals. That are going to be impacted.
But there have been studies around the world on
Oh, yeah.
except they're not.
Yeah, we've read tons
We've
about how
learned-
people are impacted by them, negatively impacted.
They
Actually,
don't
I think
measure the
that's why
infrasound.
Vermont is ahead of the curve in being so well educated on the negative impacts and consequences of industrial wind, because so many other states throughout the U.S. and so many other countries have suffered so great, and that finally the pushback and finally their governments are voicing out, and their departments of health are finally voicing out and saying, stop, this is wrong. And because all those who have suffered before us, we have been able to benefit from that. And that's why Vermont, I think, we've only allowed these the Deerfield, but these 3 real disasters that have impacted homes.
I know what happened
And
in
let's-
Ontario. You hear about that skiing? All in one spot.
See, and I just, beautiful areas to live in. This is what we've come, this is why we're here in
No,
Vermont.
all of Vermont is
Just for right here.
certainly pretty spectacular. There's no doubt about it. It's also,
And you have a
it's gonna
mountain
change
in the
lot.
background of your campaigns.
I do.
Because
Yeah.
you're proud of the
Gotta look at
mountains
the
here.
weeds.
You what?
I gotta look at the leaves.
Yeah, fair enough.
No turbine.
What would you think if the proposal was to put 30 turbines on top of Camel's Hump?
For me, it is ultimately and I've made this clear before, what are the overall energy impacts? Is that even an engineering place that works or doesn't work? Because my understanding is if it's too fast to wind, you also can't operate them. They don't operate if it's too fast.
Shut down.
Right.
And the gusts aren't good either because
Right.
the blades are constantly.
So first, it's the engineering decision. It's really, to me, and the aesthetic is moot. I don't have any problem aesthetically with it at all. For me, it's really about the long-term energy footprint and all the different ways that we impact energy consumption, both in our own individual use of energy, in the types of energy we use, and how that energy is produced, whether it be in a gas turbine or in an oil burning facility or a coal burning facility or a nuclear facility or wind or solar, and what are the life cycle costs of that energy.
And do you consider the human value as
Actually, for me, our planet and the value across the globe is more important than my personal human value.
No, I just asked for my clarification. So you put your family at risk. You could for your good. I'm just
What
asking,
I would
because
say-
as a mother of two,
Yeah, I have a 10-year-old daughter.
No way would I put my child at risk.
But we are currently putting thousands. There are 63 million refugees in the world today, primarily due to environmental conditions. People talk about it being war or other things. That's because when people are hungry, because there's no rain, or their worlds are getting flooded out by storms that are getting bigger and stronger, those refugees and the life risks are happening to people all around the world.
Put your family at risk.
Well, I've indicated if there's a wind turbine going up on the ridge right next to my house in Heinsberg, right now I'm okay with that.
How many feet
Okay,
away
so,
would you be?
but wait a minute. But
I'd be closer than this.
But then the wrecks from that are being sold to New Jersey so that they can have their gambling and keep all the lights on at night. How's that going to help those other people?
It does make that power more expensive.
Makes it more expensive than it lets them say that they're using
It
renewable.
actually reduces ours, which is one of the reasons.
No, it don't.
Because we sell it more
does.
expensive so we can buy it back cheaper and
The,
fulfill the scam. That
why
we're
is
saving
it?
money.
Why is it that our electric rates are steady and have actually, compared to those states around us,
Well, because
Help.
Fremont Power is
Okay.
selling the rest.
right here in Swanson.
it's a combination of all of those things.
And
But
we're
the-
over
but-
100% of what we need right now in Vermont.
But if
We're not big
using
electrical
all-
users.
Whether it be solar, wind, whatever it may be, and we're not using it for the Vermont goal, then what are we doing? Vermont, not worrying about all those things. We, Vermont, have the coal. But we're not using that solar for our army.
Well, energy is extraordinarily fungible. I mean, that's electrons and wires. And as a whole, there's an overall energy use and there's an overall energy production. The RECs are, in some respects, a figment, right? I mean, the energy is either being produced or not in a facility. Okay. The RECs are a way to actually offset the cost of different kinds of power. We as a society have valued going to war for cheap oil, subsidizing trillions of dollars. Okay. So unless we include all the costs, what we do is we actually then create these other economic means to account for those costs. That's what the RECs are, whether we like it or not. RECs, going to war, there's a lot of different ways that we make power more expensive and less expensive than it really ought to be. So if we want to talk about the real cost of power, I would be fine getting rid of the subsidies, it happens to be a federal policy, but the tax credits and subsidies on wind, if we also all took the real cost of what gasoline should be. But when gasoline was $4 a gallon, I'm pretty sure most people here were probably pretty upset. When it really cost $10 or $12 a gallon.
We're all affected by it. But when you put turbines in certain areas, only those people are affected. So if
I would say
if
people
we
all
are
over this
affected-
country who have friends and family who have fought in wars over oil are pretty deeply affected. So it's not
But
just
I'm
those.
talking price rise and I mean, I
But
work for a
this
fuel
lady's
oil
talking about
company.
families though, an impact on a family.
I work for a fuel oil company,
Right.
and I know that when prices went up, people complained. but we were all affected by it. We all had to pay the price. When turbines go up near people's homes and their homes are depreciated, whether their health is affected, whatever it is, only those few people are being the who are affected by it, they have to sacrifice before the rest of everything
So do folks
else.
support the idea of a discussion around the carbon pollution tax? Because that would affect everybody.
So what I'm
But it would put
thinking
money
is-
towards efficiency and we could reduce the need for some of these plants.
So
Why
What do
don't we
people hear
simply
from?
conserve?
Well, that's what part of that would do.
Well, why
is it
don't
put
we,
money towards
why don't we
conservation.
take those tax credits
Take
and put
those
them
tax
towards
credits and-
efficiency?
Well, that you have to
It's
talk
'cause
to the
there's
federal
no-
delegation.
it's
I
'cause there's
can't
no money.
control
Yeah.
the federal, the federal law.
You can
is what it is.
understand that if you.
Sure.
So,
I'm just trying to say, let's
So you
apply that philosophy across the board.
So
I know.
we have to leave in like 2 minutes.
I know you
just
gotta
so
go.
know,
So
we have
can I,
another appearance.
can I just say, see the emotion here? There's a lot of emotions here. Because
no, and
it's
it's
been a
fair.
year,
It's
it's been a
very
year and a
personal.
half. And I want you to just times that and think, we gotta think of the people also. And what we're doing and make sure that this is the future that is gonna work to save the world.
be
And that's
sure
where
to
that's where we're not
We've
hitting
come
up
back
on.
to that number of times. I'm
You know,
happy
I know
to-
I have. I just,
I'm
I just because
appreciating
I'm
that.
really
We-
seeing it. I'm seeing it now. I'm reading about the poor in Grafton and stuff. What's happening there, and it's going to blow everything apart. And this won't. We're not going to be any better off. There'll be more war. You know what I mean? Are we really doing the right thing to make things better? That's
Well,
all.
that's why I asked you about that last policy I just brought up. Is that the solution? What's the solution?
Well, you know, you don't have time, but OPEC and that whole situation is a whole different thing regarding gasoline and why it happens in Vermont, why the rates don't go down
Right.
when crude oil
Some of us
goes
have been
down
fighting on that
compared to
quite
the
a
other
bit.
part of the country
right.
and the
It's all
monopolies
cash.
of
That's
the
right.
owners.
Of the oil
So that's a
industry.
whole nother
Absolutely,
meeting.
but I brought up a different
in
policy
its
that
own,
I'm just
you know.
curious if people here do you
And-
support that idea, discussion about.
I'd rather see that
we just don't-
subsidy for everyone to have solar on their homes
Sure.
and be done with
Or
it.
sm- or-
So
Well,
Well, the
everybody's-
subsidy on these is federal law, so
everybody
there's
is
nothing I can do about that.
Yeah, but it should be for the small homes. It's our money. It should be
Leahy,
for us.
Bernie, and Welsh, and then Congress as a whole, because Leahy, Bernie, and Welsh are somewhat outnumbered at the moment with most of the situations.
They did extend it though.
They just,
In 2019.
Like another thing, we talked about wind, we talked about solar. What about water? What
think
about the
geothermal
hydro?
is a direction
What
we
about
should
the
be going.
hydro?
hydro has severe impacts as well. Every energy source
Why
we
don't
have,
we give that
Hydro for
subsidy?
years.
I know, and it has
And
impacts.
it's good. It's not bad. It
I
doesn't hurt
understand that.
anybody.
I like small scale hydro, but we have to recognize every form of energy has a serious consequence. And
Yeah, but
we
they're
as
not-
But
humans
not in
have neglected
Swanton
that for a long
and
time.
Highgate.
Not in Swanton.
Okay, so
There's
why
no
do we
water
have to have
quality
this?
impact?
Why do we have to have this when we already have hydro? I lived in Swanton. My bill was nothing. I moved to Burlington and it tripled. So why do we have to have this when we already have a solution behind it?
Well,
It's
it's
illogical.
a statewide discussion. There's, well,
It's all goes to money.
And
that's
the question
one
that
way.
all-
That's
I know
one
that
way.
you're going to talk to Sue Mitchell, right, about this, because she did come up here.
At some point, we don't see each other that much, but eventually,
But
if she's
anyway-
governor, I'm lieutenant governor, we'll be talking quite a bit. But if we're not, so
One thing that she has mentioned many times is that she is for well-sited land. I'd like to know, and I'd like to know your opinion. What is well-sited land? What does that mean to you?
well, I didn't make that statement. Okay,
I don't
but
know if you feel the same way, that well-sited wind, or you just
Well-
go wind anywhere is well-sited. I don't know.
no, I mean, to me, it's what, there are certainly different impacts on different ridge lines. There's different impacts no matter where it goes. So by some definitions, there would be no such thing as well-sited land, right? On
And
the
there
other-
you have the answer.
No,
And
that's
there
not.
you have
in
the
that
answer.
case, we should have no power. Go back to burning fire to have your light at night, because
No.
there's no well-sited hydro.
The thing
There's
is,
no
we have
well-sited
enough power
nuclear.
for 5.5 years.
I just
No, I mean,
took
all-
a visit
I mean, I'm
to
just-
New York for my first time in my life, actually, and there were some wonderful sights. I never ever need to go back there again. I saw the Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island and those really important things in our history. And I was disgusted walking around there at night. I looked up and I'm like, this is the grossest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, there's
I
tremendous
don't know how
overconsumption.
people can actually think this is good and the wastefulness, and there's been analogies about Vermont's whole energy production equaling like 4 hours
Lots.
and New York City traffic. And that's part of the point is, why do we have to destroy our glorious green mountains? Because like New York City has these stupid lit up banners about some ridiculous movie going on 24/7. And
think
that's
we
not
have
our
similar
that's
sentiments
not our
about
fault though.
wastefulness. I
That's
mean, I
not our
think
fault to
there's-
suffer for that.
So I just
very-
want to
You know?
thank you all for having us
Yeah.
here. It's been
Thank you for coming.
informative. It's always
sure.
important to listen
Thank you.
to everybody's personal impacts,
I have
and I
another
really appreciate it.
I was
This is Michelle, by the way.
Hi, Michelle.
sorry, I
Thanks.
didn't know.
That's good.
I was told that you were going to follow up with because she couldn't make it.
Okay.
So could you kind of give us a brief summary of what you would tell Sue of what you learned here today?
Well, so first I have to reflect and digest on everything because there's been quite a bit of information coming out and sometimes multiple people at once. But no, there's no doubt that there's a group of very concerned citizens about the impacts. There's a lot I need to learn. Some I have learned prior, some further research necessary in terms of what the impact of these are on the wetlands and waterways, although I've also learned that A&R and the folks up there have sort of signed off or at least found that with adjustments that it was not going to have the water quality impacts that some of you have raised. So I will talk to Denise. She's an old friend of mine. She grew up in Charlotte. I knew her in college. So we know each other for 20 plus years.
And how close they are, I mean, like visually how close they really
Well,
are.
visually, I
people's
understand your
homes.
concern on the visual side. Again, like I said, that just doesn't go very far for me.
In the
It's
visual,
whether or
it's
not,
always
right, and I recognize that for
Everything
many
else
of you as
trumps
well.
it.
But I'm just letting you know when that comes up, I'm going to continue to say that's not a concern for me.
No, I
So,
didn't mean it as visual as looking at it as visual as the impact of blasting this close to people's homes. We all have drilled wells with water. That's what I
right.
meant.
Well, I mean, in Burlington, when they did the hospital, hole in the ground, there was blasting for a year. That does happen. I mean, we want progress, and yet we don't want some of those temporary impacts of progress. So I'm not sure how to answer that for you, other than, there is blasting next to people's homes often and much closer. I mean, in Burlington, that was in the middle of Burlington.
They use mats, right, to contain the fly rock.
Sure, but in terms of the vibration, that doesn't do anything. In terms of noise, that doesn't really do much of anything.
A lot of information that we gave to you, my overall view of listening to your responses, it makes me feel like you're okay with what's going to happen if it happens. And that part is hard to
His buyout is contingent on palatable water and no rain. His buyout,
When we proposed the buyout.
3,000.
3,000
So there are contingencies to the buyout, or he'll buy you out if you want to go?
Those contingencies. It's after the turbines are up, after the houses have been appreciated. He picks the appraiser. You pay for the appraiser.
Yep. You have to pay all your money for it. And it requires you to have potable water and no radon. But in my mind, I've raised this concern about the well water and, with all the
Any company that would do that, there's got to be a reason for it. So just remember, there's got to be a reason why they're doing that.
We should be measuring we should be testing all that water and testing for radon beforehand. And if it changes, the difference is that up there on the hill. But to only test it after, and if it's not good, say, well, too bad. If you caused it, that's...
What's Mike's
And
last
then
name?
there's a fairly divided, it sounds like, because you pointed to these houses, it's pretty divided, right? It sounds like
There's
some
only two
neighbors are
people
fine and some aren't.
out of this development.
There's only two?
There's those two over there.
He needed some positive, so he contacted us.
Well, and the guy there, he bought his house really cheap because the
Potential
turbines
project.
were going in
This
and the
brown
house
house.
was...
But that happens
Well, I
everywhere.
thought-
Some people
I thought
don't
maybe
get
all of them
involved,
were.
right?
Yeah.
Some people don't get involved even with they don't want the F-15s or that whatever.
Right.
But right,
Yeah.
some people get involved, some people don't.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.